morning everyone. Welcome to this edition of Weekly Roundup. In Weekly Roundup, we cover the most important news of the last week. In today's Weekly Roundup, we will also focus on the PYQs of the prelims examination as prelims exam is approaching. My name is Anuj and I will be taking today's session. In today's session, we will be covering 5 main news, 7 quick update and 1 place in news. In the first main news, we will be learning about the anti-defection law because AAP have submitted the disqualification plea to Rajya Sabha chair against the MPs who have joined the BJP. Then, in the second main news, we will be learning about differentiated banks that include the Paytm payment bank. And in this news, we will be briefly talking about the small finance bank as well. Then the third main news is about the freedom of navigation in the international water and specifically the rules which govern the freedom of navigation. Then we will be discussing about the new Citizenship Amendment Rule as Ministry of Home Affairs have notified the Citizenship Amendment Rules 2026. Then in the last main news, we will be covering about ethanol blending as the Ministry of Road Transport and Highway have proposed rules to allow higher ethanol blended fuels in vehicles. Then after that, we will be covering about Mali in place in news and briefly covering 7 quick update. So this is a brief about today's session. Let us start the session with the first news. What is the first news? First news is about the anti-defection law. And the context in this news is that the AAP party have submitted disqualification plea to the Rajya Sabha chair against MP who have joined BJP. So this is the context. In this news, we will be covering about anti-defection law in India and what is this whole issue about. It is related to paper 2 where syllabus talks about parliament and state legislature structure, functioning and conduct of business. Let us start the discussion of this news. First of all, what is this anti-defection that we will be understanding? What is the development? So the development is that the 2/3 of the Rajya Sabha's MPs of AAP have quitted the party and joined the BJP, leading to the submission of disqualification plea. So out of 10, 7 members of the AAP party have joined the BJP and other members of AAP have filed a plea against the chairperson for disqualification of the members who have joined the BJP. So this is the development here. Let us understand a brief history of this anti-defection law. So there was a phrase which was very famous in 1967, that is Aya Ram and Gaya Ram. What is this phrase about? So there was a MLA in Haryana and he have changed the party for 3 times in a single day. So such type of switching of MLAs and MPs for various benefit was bringing the instability in the government. And as you might be aware that the instability in government is harmful for the governance. So to stop this instability, government brought a law by the 52nd Amendment that is popularly known as anti-defection law. So let us read and understand about 10th schedule and disqualification of the legislature. So this law was popularly referred as the anti-defection law and it was added by the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985. But in this act, split was also allowed. What is the meaning of split? Suppose there are 9 members of a party and out of those 9 members, 1/3 decide to join another party, that is out of 9, 3 decide to join the other party, that is known as the split. And this split was allowed in the original act. Okay, so this split was allowed, that means it was exempted from the anti-defection law. But government realized it that it has been misutilized by many party members, so they brought a amendment, that is the 91st Constitutional Amendment Act, that have strengthened the anti-defection law by removing this clause and making it as at least 2/3. So now for merger and having an exception from this anti-defection law, 2/3 members should move. That is, that out of 9, 2/3 will be 6. So now if 6 members are moving out from a party and joining the other party, that is allowed, or that won't be coming under the anti-defection law. That is the basic meaning of split and the merger. What was the objective of this law? Its objective was to combat the political defection and safeguard the democracy by bringing the stability. That was its basic aim. Now let us discuss that on what ground this disqualification is applicable. First of all, when one member, that can be MP or MLA, voluntarily gives up its party membership. I am a member from a X party and I am giving up my membership of that X party, then this disqualification will be applicable. In the second case, defying the party whip during the voting. Suppose there is some important issue in the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha or the state assembly, and party have given orders that you have to vote on this side, and if someone is defying that order by voting against or not voting as well, then also that is a ground for disqualification. Then in the third case, for an independent elected legislature, who is an independent elected legislature, who is elected without a support of any political party. In Hindi, they are also known as nirdaliya. So if these independent elected legislators join any political party after selected as MP and MLA, then that is also for a ground for a disqualification. And lastly, nominated members, if nominated members join any political party after 6 months from the day they become a legislator. That means they can join the political party in the starting 6 months, but not after the 6 months. So this is the ground for disqualification. And there are some concerns regarding the disqualification or this anti-defection law. First of all, the deciding authority is speaker or chairperson accordingly. And most of the time, the speaker and chairperson are related to the ruling party. So they take indefinite time, and the time frame is not mentioned in this act. So they can take longer time to decide on disqualification. Second issue is the speaker or the chairperson cannot take a show motto call. One of the members from the house have to complain regarding the issue of disqualification. These are some of the issues related to anti-defection law in India. Now let us discuss what is the present issue. So present issue is basically regarding the original party. Let us understand that. So as per the 10th schedule, disqualification on the ground of defection not apply to the in the case of merger, that we have learned that merger is when 2/3 members join the other party. In such scenarios, the disqualification does not apply on the ground of defection. So it provides that the member of a house shall not be disqualified where his original political party merges with another political party. So the whole issue is regarding this original party. What is this original party? That is the whole issue. So the disqualification plea argue that the 10th schedule require a genuine merger of the original political party and not just the legislature who are changing the sides. That means the parent party of these legislature, that is our party, should have merged with the BJP, then only these members won't come under this disqualification on the ground of defection. That is the argument given in the plea. Whereas the members who have gone to the other party, they are saying that there is simple case of 2/3 merger and we qualify that scenario, that is out of 10, 7 have joined the BJP. So they are saying that they are qualified under merger, that is the number is higher than the 2/3. This is the complete issue. Now let us discuss the PYQs related to this news. Both the PYQs that we will be discussing here are easy and you can solve them. So please write their answer in the comment section. First PYQ from the year 2022. What is the question? With reference to anti-defection law in India, consider the following statement. Statement 1, that the law specifies that a nominated legislature cannot join any political party within 6 months of being appointed to the House. That is the first statement. Second statement, the law does not provide any time frame within which the presiding officer has to decide a defection case. That also we have discussed. So please write down the answer for this PYQ in the comment section. Options are A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, both 1 and 2, and D, neither 1 nor 2. Let us have a look on another PYQ. This PYQ is from the year 2014, and the question is, which one of the following schedule of the Constitution of India contain provisions regarding anti-defection? A, second schedule, B, fifth schedule, C, 8th schedule, D, 10th schedule. Very easy question. So you should be knowing this, and we have discussed this. Please write down this answer in the comment section. Let us move to the next news now. The next news is related to the Paytm payment bank. And what is the context? The context here is that RBI have cancelled the banking license of Paytm payment banks. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about economic development and in particular about the monetary policy. Let us discuss this news. So the development is that according to the RBI, Paytm payment bank have failed to adhere to the guidelines for licensing of Paytm payment banks under the Banking Regulation Act of 1949. Let us understand what was the issue. So if you are using Paytm from a long time, you might be knowing about this bank. Before 2 years, RBI have said that Paytm payment bank cannot have new depositors or new members in its payment banks. Why RBI have observed this? Because there was some issues. First issue was regarding the KYC norms. That is, know your customers guidelines was not followed, in particular by the Paytm payment bank, which could lead to financial fraud. Second, RBI have found out that there was usage of one PAN for many accounts. That was also one of the issue. So before 2 years, RBI said that Paytm payment bank cannot have deposits, new deposits. Now RBI have cancelled the license of Paytm payment bank. This is the complete issue. In this news, we will be learning about the payment bank. Let us discuss about the payment bank. First of all, they were recommended by Nachiket More committee in the year 2014. And what is the definition of them? So they are financial institutions set up to operate on smaller scale with minimum credit risk under differentiated banking licenses. So this term, differentiated banking licenses, is very important. You might have also read about universal bank. What are universal bank? They are also there in the news. Universal banks are such banks which provide many facilities or many functions, such as insurance also they provide, deposit also they provide, loans also they provide, and other type of facilities that is there under universal banks. And what is this differentiated banks, and what is the differentiated banking licenses? So these licenses are specialized licenses designed to serve the specific customer segment. So what RBI have observed by this committee report, that there was a large section of society who were not included in the formal financial setup. So to increase the financial inclusion in India and to bring the underserved or unbanked areas under the banking system, these differentiated banking licenses were given. Under this, one is payment bank and another one is small finances banks. So what are these small finances bank? These are very similar to the normal banks, but they operate on a very small scale. They can perform all the functions that are performed by a general bank, but on a small scale. That is about the small finance bank. We will be learning about the payment bank here. I am talking about the small finance bank. And what was the objective of RBI to establish these payment banks? To promote the financial inclusion, as we have discussed, through serving the unbanked and the underbanked population, and they were registered under the Companies Act of 2013. That means if some bank want to register as a payment bank, or some app want to register as a payment bank, they have to get registered under the Companies Act of 2013. And what is the capital requirement? So there is a capital requirement that they must have a minimum paid up capital of 100 crore and promoter share should be more or equal to 40% for the first 5 years. And the SLR requirement, statutory liquidity ratio, is very high for the payment bank. It is up to 75%. That is 75% fund in the should be in the SLR securities for stability in these banks, and 25% is only with the banks. So they have a very limited option to operate. Now let us look at what are the function payment bank can do and what are the function a payment bank cannot do. So what payment bank can do? They can accept the deposit. Suppose I want to deposit in payment bank. Let us give an example of Paytm payment bank or Airtel payment bank. I can give up to maximum of 2 lakh per customer, and they can issue debit card. okay, and enable personal payment and cross-border remittances. They were also allowed to increase the remittances, but they are not allowed to give the credit card, that we will be learning in what payment bank cannot do, and borrow and lend in interbank market. So you might be aware about the interbank market. So they participate in the call money and CBLO, that is collateral borrowing and lending obligation market, as both borrower as well as the lenders, and they can lend to their own employees, allowed using the bank's own funds subject to a board approved policy. These are the functions that a payment bank can do. Now let us discuss what payment bank cannot do. First of all, it cannot issue loan or credit card. Okay, if you have noticed about the Paytm payment bank, it used to issue the debit card but not credit card, and they can accept the time deposit such as fixed deposit. That means they cannot accept time deposit. What is time deposit? That is a fixed deposit, that I will be taking money after this amount of time. Then undertake para banking. They cannot have functions such as insurance, mutual fund, portfolio management, etc., unless explicitly permitted by the RBI. So they have to go to the RBI and ask for the permission that if they can function as an insurance, as mutual fund, as portfolio managers. So these are the functions that payment banks cannot do. Now let us discuss PYQs related to this news. First is from the year 2016. The question is, the establishment of payment banks is being allowed in India to promote financial inclusion. Which of the following statement is or are correct in this context? First, mobile telephone companies and supermarket chain that are owned and controlled by residents of India are eligible to promoters of the payment bank. Second, payment banks can issue both credit cards and debit cards. Then payment bank cannot undertake lending activities. So all these three statements we have discussed. This statement also we have discussed indirectly when I was giving the example of Airtel Payment Bank. We have discussed this statement. We have discussed this statement. So even by the method of elimination, you can come to the answer. So please analyze this question and write down the answer in the comment section. Now let us discuss one more PYQ related to this news, and this is related to small finance bank that we have not discussed in that detail. First, what is the question is, what is the purpose of setting up of small finance bank in India? And it is the question from the year 2017. First statement, to supply credit to small businesses unit. They are for a specialized sector, so this is allowed. Then to supply credit to small and marginal farmers, this is also allowed. Third, to encourage young entrepreneur to set up business, particularly in the rural areas. So this is not directly mentioned as an purpose or the objective of the small finances bank. So this is not the correct statement. So the answer for this question is A, 1 and 2 only. Now let us discuss the next news for today. So the next news is about the freedom of navigation in international waters, and in this news we will be discussing about the rules that are governing the freedom of navigation in international water. It is related to paper 2, where syllabus talks about the important international institutions, agencies and fora. In this news we will be particularly discussing about UN clause. Let us start the discussion for this news. So what is the development here? So development is that Iran have attacked ship responding to the US seizures of Iranian ship in conflict in Strait of Hormuz. and at its narrowest, the strait lies entirely within the overlapping territorial water of Iran and Oman and is governed by the transit passage under UN clause. So the issue here is that Strait of Hormuz is there between Iran and Oman. Please be very clear that it is between Iran and Oman, but not between Iran and UAE. If you see the map, it will look like that it is there between the Iran and UAE, but it is there between Iran and Oman. And it is very narrow. So the territorial water for a country is about 12 nautical mile, that is around 24 kilometers. So there are overlapping territorial water claim of Iran and Oman in Strait of Hormuz. But such type of straits are governed by the transit passage under UN clause, but not under the territorial water. Okay, so UN clause is signed by Iran, but they have not ratified it. They have signed, whereas USA have not signed UN clause. Okay, this is also an important information for your prelims examination. Now let us move forward and understand about the institutional architecture governing the freedom of navigation in international water. So basically it is governed by the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Seas, that is in short form also known as UN clause. And what are the core principles which are followed in for the freedom of navigation in international water? So the core principles that are followed are global common. That means that resource is common for the globe. Second, freedom of navigation. Third, resource right and dispute resolution. Now let us discuss briefly about the maritime zones and what are the right applicable on those maritime zones. First of all, the territorial sea, that is up to 12 nautical mile from the coast. Suppose you are standing at the coast, so till 12 nautical mile it is the territorial sea. From 12 nautical mile to the 200 nautical mile from the coastline, it is from the coastline till here it is 200 nautical mile. Till that area it is economic exclusive zone, and after that 200 nautical mile it is high sea. And that high sea, there was a treaty recently which was there in the news, treaty for high sea. So high sea is continuously there in the news. You should also read about that treaty because that is there in the current affairs, and they can ask interrelated questions as well. So that is the whole scenario. And now let us understand what are the rights applicable in these maritime zone. Let us first understand about the territorial sea. So here first is transit passage is applied. And what is this transit passage? It recognizes free unhindered passage to the foreign ship, but with few restrictions such as purpose, route, delay and loading. So in such narrow width areas such as Strait of Hormuz or Malacca Strait, this law is applicable, that is transit passage. So it recognizes the free unhindered passage, but the ship that is carrying the various materials should be very clear with the purpose, route, and it should not delay and it should not load anything on the neighboring countries. Then there is another one is that is innocent passage right. It is applicable on merchant ship and even on the warship. Such type of trap can be asked in the UPSC examination, where UPSC can ask, then the innocent passage is not applicable for warship, which in general terms seems true. But if we read about it, that innocent passage right are applicable not only for merchant ship but also applicable for the warships. And innocent mean that the ship does not pose a threat to the nation. Okay, then in the exclusive economic zone, so here freedom of navigation is not absolute, and there are sovereign right of the state and on what resources, over resources exploitation and energy production in this region, along with the jurisdiction over artificial structure. Suppose some one country want to create an artificial island, so in this region they can create in their exclusive economic zone. Then they can conduct the marine scientific research, environment protection and other UNCLOS defined duties. Then in the high seas, it is open to all state. It is a global common. No one can claim a right over high sea. And what are the exemption? First one is hot pursuit of vessel that have committed a crime in territorial water. Suppose there is a ship and it have committed crime in territorial water, and now it have moved to the high sea. So it cannot say that I am not there on anyone jurisdiction, so I am free to roam. That is not the scenario. Second, explicitly authorization by the UN Security Council. Then there are some vessels without the nationality. So to move in the high sea, there should be a state flag. That ship should be registered in one nation, and if that ship does not have state flag, that can be interrupted. And lastly, where the state consent is there to interception, then also that ship can be intercepted. So these are the right applicable in territorial sea, exclusive economic zone and high sea. Now let us move forward and understand about the key challenges to freedom of navigation in international waters. So first issue is about the geopolitical and strategic. So these freedom of navigation is often disrupted as state use these choke point and sea lay and as a tool for strategic leverage and blockade and power rivalry, which is happening, which is the current issue in Strait of Hormuz. First, Iran have said that we won't allow the passage of ship of many countries, particularly the Western countries. They allowed passage for some countries such as China, and even they allowed for the passage of Indian ship. But they have said that we won't be allowing the passage for some countries' ship. And as this area is very important, as it carries around 20% passage of global crude oil, that it created a choke point here. Then there are legal ambiguity as well, such as differing interpretation of UNCLOS rules and weak enforcement mechanism with UNCLOS. And there are some issues such as that we have discussed, that USA is not part of UNCLOS. Iran have signed but not ratified the rules related to UNCLOS. That is also one of the issue. Then there are unilateral action and the sanction. And by this it means that US have intercepted ships trading in Venezuelan oil and carrying oil to Cuba under domestic law. If you are following newspaper, there was blackout in Cuba. And what was the reason? The reason was that USA said that no country can carry the oil to the Cuba. And in Cuba, most of the electricity is produced by using oil. So then Russia has taken a ship towards Cuba and provided them with the oil, and there was chances that there can be a direct conflict between USA and Russia near to the Cuba. And there are some other issues as well, such as piracy, terrorism in these international waters. Now let us discuss PYQ related to this news. So first PYQ is from the year 2021. The first statement is that the Global Ocean Commission have grant permission or licenses for the seabed exploration and mining in international waters. So these licenses are provided by the International Seabed Authority, which is there under UNCLOS. So this statement is not correct. And if we eliminate A, C and D because they carry the first option, so the answer would be B, 2 and 3 only. Now let us read the second and third statement as well, because there are chances that they can be asked again indirectly in the next prelims. Second statement is that India have received the licenses for seabed minerals exploration in international water. And please write down in the comment section that which ministry take the licenses for the seabed mineral exploration. Okay, third statement, rare earth minerals are present on sea floor in international water. This is a very broad statement, so this is true as well. So the answer is B, 2 and 3 only. Now let us move to the next news, and next news is related to the Citizenship Amendment Rules of 2026, and the context here is that the Ministry of Home Affairs have notified the Citizenship Amendment Rules 2026. It is related to paper 2, Indian Constitution Historical Underpinning Evolution Features Amendment, basically about the citizenship. So let us discuss this news. So the development is that the rules aims to streamline the processes concerning the overseas citizens of India, card holders, and tightening the passport norm for the minors. First of all, let us understand about OCI and NRIs. Then you will understand this news in a better way. So NRIs are basically Indian passport holders. That means they are Indian citizens who are temporarily out of India. Those are NRI, basically for more than 180 days. Then OCIs are foreign citizens, not Indian. Overseas card holder of India, they are not Indian citizen, they are foreign citizen. We will be discussing them in detail, but for now please be very clear that NRIs are Indian citizens and OCIs are the foreign citizens. And India does not allow dual citizenship. What does that mean? That a person cannot have two citizenship, that is one of India and another one from other countries. That is not allowed by India. Many countries allowed such dual citizenship. USA and South Africa allowed dual citizenship, but India does not allow dual citizenship. If you are citizen of India, you are only citizen of India. That is very clear. Let us move to the discussion of this news, and first of all let us understand about overseas citizens of India. What is the scheme and what is the meaning of OCI, that is overseas citizen of India? So it was introduced in the year 2005 by amending the Citizenship Amendment Act. So this scheme, that is overseas citizen of India, was introduced in the year 2005 by amending the Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955. Then there was one more category, that was the person of Indian origin, and there was lot of ambiguity between these person of Indian origin and overseas citizenship of India. So in the year 2015, both this OCI and POI card was merged together in the year 2015. Now let us understand about the eligibility, who can be a OCI card holder. So eligibility is who were citizen of India on the 26th January 1950 or thereafter, or were eligible to become citizen of India on 26th January 1950, and it is exclude two countries in particular, that is Pakistan and Bangladesh. The citizen of these two countries cannot have the overseas citizen of India card. And there are many card holder of overseas citizen of India. More than 129 countries are having the card holders of overseas citizenship of India, and the highest number is there in USA, United States of America, and their children's and their grandchildren as well are eligible for this overseas citizen of India. There are many conditions, such as if one member or one is Indian citizen or holder of overseas citizen of India, and his or her spouse can also have a overseas citizens of India card. So there are some condition. These are the condition. Now let us understand about benefit. So they can have multiple entry, multi-purpose lifelong visa to visit India. So they can have a lifelong multi-purpose visa. Then they are exempted from reporting to police authorities for any length of stay. Suppose there is a foreign national or foreign citizen, he or she have to report to the local authorities, the local police, about his or her stay in India from time to time. But these holders, the card holders, are exempted from this. Then they have parity with NRIs in financial, economics and educational field, except in the acquisition of agriculture or plantation properties. And there are some restrictions as well, that they have to follow certain rules, otherwise this card or this OCI Citizenship of India card will be terminated, and also they cannot participate in voting or cannot be selected or elected for any constitutional post in India. Now let us discuss about the changes in the rules. What are the highlights? First of all, the dual passport ban for minors. So it was observed by Home Ministry that many of the minors was having dual citizenship. That is not allowed in India. So for that, they have said that the minor child cannot at any time hold the passport of any other country while also holding the Indian passport. It is not related to OCI card holders. It is about Indian citizenship. And under the 2009 rules, parent registering the birth of child born outside of India at an Indian consulate has to declare that the child did not hold any other country passport. And if the child have any other country's passport, he or she won't be allowed to have Indian passport. That is the meaning of first statement. Then EOCI, that is electronic OCI. That OCI status can now be issued in an electronic format to bringing the ease. Then there is mandatory online OCI application. So OCI application is now mandatory in the electronic format, and for that they have released one registration portal as well. And lastly, there is appellate mechanism as well, and revision against the OCI related orders will now be handled by an authority one rank higher than the original deciding authority. Suppose one authority has given a decision regarding the OCI or issues regarding the OCI, then its revision will be decided by higher authority than the original deciding authority. So these are the key highlights of the new rules. Now let us discuss one PYQ related to this news. So the question is from 2021. Question is, with reference to India, consider the following statement. First, there is only one citizenship and one domicile. That means that Indians cannot have dual citizenship. So this is an correct statement. Second, a citizen by birth only can become the head of state. This is not true for India. This is true for USA, but not for India. So this statement is not correct. Second, a foreigner once granted citizenship cannot be deprived of it. This is not the case in India. Also, you might have read this in your static textbook that the citizenship can be terminated. So this is also not correct statement. Answer would be A, one only. Now let us discuss the last main news for today, and it is related to ethanol blending. And what is the context? The context is that the Ministry of Road Transport and Highway have proposed rule to allow higher ethanol blended fuels in vehicles. So from last 1 year, ethanol related issue, ethanol blending related issue are continuously there in the news. So anything and everything related to ethanol is very important for this year prelims as well as this year mains examination. This topic is related to paper 3, which talks about sustainable development. Let us discuss this news in detail. First of all, what is the development? So development is that the ministry have issued a draft to amend the Central Motor Vehicle Rules 1989 to include E85, E100 ethanol fuel and B100 biodiesel for vehicle certification and use. These terms we will be learning in the next slide. And if you observe in the recent past, even there are a draft for the sugar rules. There also ethanol is allowed, or the production of ethanol is promoted. What is this ethanol? C2H5OH. That is the chemical formula for ethanol. It is naturally produced as well by yeast, and it is also produced artificially by petrochemical process of ethylene. So this is the basic about ethanol, and there are the 4 generation of ethanol that is known by 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. 1G is from the food crops, the first generation of ethanol, the production from the food crops such as sugar cane, maize and other food crops. Second is from the biomass residue of the food grains or the food crops. Third is from the biomass residue of algae. And fourth is from the specifically or genetically modified food grains or products for producing the ethanol. So this is the basic about ethanol. Now let us discuss about the ethanol blending. And what is its meaning? It involves the blending different percentage of ethanol with petrol to produce a fuel that burn cleaner and is more sustainable. So basically, it means that you are blending ethanol with the petrol to bringing more sustainability and more cleaner fuel. And what are its type? E10, that is 10% of ethanol by volume, E20, that is 20% of ethanol, and E85, that is 85% of ethanol. And the use of E20 gives better acceleration, better ride quality and lower carbon emission by approximately 30% as compared to E10 fuels. This is about the ethanol blending. In the next slide, we will be learning about its significance and about the challenges as well. First of all, let us understand about the significance of the ethanol blending. So, direct fact, that is, it reduces the carbon emission as ethanol is renewable fuel. So sugarcane and maize-based ethanol reduces GH, that is global house warming emission, by 65% and 50% respectively compared to petrol. That is been found by the Niti Aayog study. So there will be a reduced carbon emission that will lead to lower down or of the greenhouse gas emission. Then it will reduce the import. You might be knowing that we are dependent on import for the crude oil, and if we use some percentage of ethanol that can be produced domestically, it will automatically reduce the import. Then it will also promote the energy security. Now we are seeing that there are issues in the Western Asia and it is impacting the energy security of India. And if we have the higher percentage of ethanol, that will lead to better energy security. Then there are other benefits as well, such as economic growth, as there will be factories related to ethanol, crop diversification, as farmers will be growing maize and other products that can be directly used for ethanol production. Then it will increase the fuel efficiency, can increase the fuel efficiency and rural development as well. But there are some challenges as well, and that was the issue that was going on in the news. What are those challenges? First, food security and inflation. Suppose today I am growing wheat and maize and pulses, but I am seeing more profit in growing maize that is used for the production of the ethanol. So I will be growing that maize, that can hamper the food security. Second issue about environmental sustainability. First of all, the ethanol production in itself is water intensive. It requires more amount of water for its production. That's why there was a issue in the Rajasthan as well regarding the plant of ethanol. And then second issue is that it uses sugar cane, and sugar cane in itself is a water intensive crop. So it will use a lot of water for the production. Third, the technological and vehicle cost. So the transition to E20 and the higher blend require a engine and the fuel system modification. So most of the vehicle which are present in today's market of India are not compiled with E20 or the higher ethanol. So that will require a change in the system or the calibration in the system, which will be costly for the Indian citizen. Then lastly, about the fuel efficiency. So there will be the lower energy density. So the energy in the ethanol is lower when compared to petrol. So when it is mixed with the petrol, so overall efficiency of that product will come down. That will lead to the reduction in the efficiency. That means the mileage will come down. So these are the challenges. Now let us discuss about the government initiative. First of all, government have reduced the GST on the ethanol which is used in blending from 18% to 5%. Then there is ethanol blended petrol program which was launched in the year 2003 to promote the blending of ethanol in petrol. Then there is national policy on biofuels which was amended in 2022. So it advances the deadline to reach the blending target of 20% of bioethanol in petrol from the year 2030 to 2025-26. Then there is Pradhan Mantri Jeevan, that is Jaiv Indhan Vataran Anukul Fasal Avases Nivaran Yojana. So it provides financial support to integrate bioethanol project for setting up the second generation, and we have discussed about 4 generations of the bioethanol in the first slide. Now let us discuss one PYQ related to this news. So it is from the year 2020, and question is, according to the India's national policy on biofuels which was amended in the year 2022 that we have discussed. We have not discussed this question directly, but we have discussed about this policy in the news. So question is, which of the following be used as a raw material for the production of the biofuels. So here cassava, let us think for a minute, that is used or not used, we cannot be sure. Second, damaged wheat grains. Don't you think it will be promoted that damaged wheat grains which cannot be used to eat, they should be used, so they will be used. Third, the groundnut seeds, okay, they cannot be used because they are important for the groundnuts and the groundnuts oil. Then horse gram, which are very important source for protein, they cannot also be used by a logic. Then rotten potatoes, they will be used, they are rotten, what is the use of rotten potatoes? Then the sugar beet, they will be also used. So answer would be 2, 5 and 6, and according to this one will also correct, that means cassava will also be used. So the logics are simple to apply after the exam, but in exam it is very important to calm down and think logically to solve such type of question. With this we have completed the main news for today. Now let us discuss the place in news for today, and the place in news for today is Mali, and the context is that the India have advised its national in Mali to exercise caution due to security concerns. So there is a security threat in Mali. In this news we will be covering about its geographical features mostly, because there are questions in the prelims examination related to the geographical features of the various countries. So first of all, it is a landlocked country in the Saharan and the Sahelian region of the West Africa. Look at the location of it. It is there in the Saharan and the Sahelian region. Sahel is the transitional zone between the arid Sahara to the north and the belt of the humid savannas to the south. So this is there, and the Great Green Wall initiative passes through this Mali. Okay, please look at the countries where this Great Green Wall passes through. Even the prime meridian passes through the country of Mali. Then what are the land boundaries? There is Algeria in the north, there is Niger and Burkina Faso in the east, then there is Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea in the south, and Senegal and Mauritania in the west. This is there, Senegal is here, Guinea is here, Cote d'Ivoire is here, Burkina Faso is here, Niger is here. These are its neighboring countries. Then major wind, this temperature is influenced by Alize and Hermanton winds. Hermanton winds are also known by the name of doctor winds. And why these winds are also known as doctor winds? Because they bring down the humidity. That's why they are known as by the name of doctor winds as well. And what are the major minerals? Gold, which is the main export. There is iron, bauxite, manganese, lithium minerals as well in this country. So with this we have completed the place in news for today. Now let us discuss the quick update. The first quick update is related to the sacrifice ratio. And the context is that the recent measure of inflation control in India, US, UK have highlighted economic cost of managing inflation measured using the sacrifice ratio. Let us understand it with an example. Suppose inflation in India is 7%, which is higher than the width, which is there from 2 to 6%. That means there is more money in the market. So to bring down the inflation, what RBI will typically do? RBI will increase the interest rate. So that will reduce the money in the market. But that reduction of the money in the market will also hamper the economic growth, will also hamper the employment rate, and also hamper the various part. So this trade-off is calculated and measured using the sacrifice ratio. That is the basic meaning of this. So it measures the direct economic cost of bringing down the inflation, and we bring down the inflation by increasing the interest rate. And it presents the exact percentage of real GDP lost for every 1% decrease in the inflation rate. The metric highlights the strict trade-off. Trade-off means we are choosing one over the other between ensuring the price stability and sustaining the economic growth. So for when we are bringing down the inflation, we are bringing the price stability, but we are giving off some of the economic growth. Higher ratios means fighting inflation causes the significant short-term pain, including increased unemployment, reduced industrial production. As there is no money or there is reduction in the money, it will impact the industrial production, it will impact the unemployment rate as well. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Changi Naval Base. The context here is that the Indian Ocean ship Sagar INS Sunya arrived at Changi Naval Base that is there in Singapore. So its location is also important. UPSC can ask where is Changi Naval Base, where is Port of Dukum, and where is Sabang Port. So let us first understand about the Changi Naval Base. So it offers a direct access to the Strait of Malacca and the South China Sea. It is there in the Singapore. And 2017 logistic agreement between India and Singapore grant Indian Navy access to the base for logistic support. Here we are talking about Changi Naval Base that is there in Singapore. Then other overseas port with India's strategic presence. One is Port of Dukum. It is there in southeast Oman overlooking the Arabian Sea. This area is there in the news due to the war in this region. So you should be knowing its exact location where it is located. Then there is Sabang Port. It is on the northern tip of Sumatra, and Sumatra Island is part of Indonesia, and it is there at the entrance of Malacca. State of Malacca is also an choke point. Now let us move to the next news, and next news is about OPEC and OPEC Plus, and the context here is that UAE have quitted the organization of the petroleum exporting countries OPEC and OPEC Plus. And why they have done it, that is not clear, but it is reported in the newspaper that they have done it to support USA, or they have done it that USA wanted to move them out of this OPEC because they decide the price, and the USA think that they act as an inflation tool. That means they decide the higher prices, and whereas UAE is saying that their production have been hampered due to the attack of the Iran. Now let us understand about OPEC. It is a permanent intergovernmental organization of oil exporting developing nation. So it is a group of oil exporting developing nation, because if you think which country produces the largest crude oil, that is USA. That is not part of this OPEC or OPEC Plus. So what is its genesis? It is created at the Baghdad conference in 1960 by the countries Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. Venezuela have the highest oil reserve, but the oil of Venezuela is sour. That means it have higher percentage of sulfur. So the other members of OPEC include Algeria, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Libya and Nigeria, and its headquarters is there in Vienna, that is there in Australia, and objective is to coordinate and unify the petroleum policies among member countries to secure fair and stable prices for petroleum producer. And in the year, I think 2016, there was OPEC Plus as well. in response to failing oil. I don't think it is there in 2016. So there was creation of OPEC plus, and why it was created? In response to the failing of oil prices, which were driven by a significant increase in the US production of oil price by using the shale oil output. So OPEC signed an agreement with other 10 other oil producing countries in 2016 only. Oh, I was right that it was started in 2016 to create OPEC plus. Okay, so this is about OPEC and OPEC plus. Now let us understand about peace clause. So India have invoked the WTO peace clause for the 7th time with rise subsidies of 7.6 US million dollars. So here this context is not that important. We will be learning about peace clause. So it is agreed at WTO ministerial conference in Bali in the year 2013 as an interim arrangement. So you might be knowing about 3 type of boxes in agriculture. One is amber, where one is green box, first one, then amber, then blue box. There is no red box in agriculture. There is green, amber and blue. So green is permitted, amber there are restrictions, and there is blue then. So this support of price is come under this come under amber box, for which there is restriction after a particular time. But as there was no solution for that time being, there is this peace clause. So it allows developing countries to provide subsidies under public stockholding program for food security. So this is the peace clause, that until a permanent solution is found out, this will be allowed. The restriction which fall under the amber box. Please read about the green box, amber box and blue box. There is no red box in agriculture, and it protects such program from legal challenges in WTO dispute settlement system, even if subsidy limit are exceeded, and it is there in the amber box. This should be also very clear. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about CIPRI trends in world military expenditure 2025. So the CIPRI have released the trend, this report. The name of the report is Trend in the World Military Expenditure. And the CIPRI, which stands for Stockholm International Peace Research Institution, is an independent international institute dedicated to research in conflict, arm control and disarmament. And it was established in 66 in Stockholm, that is there in Sweden. And what are its key findings? The key findings are that the 5 biggest military spenders in 2025, first one is USA. And you will observe that USA is always there at the first. Even next 4 to 5 countries combined does not match the military budget of USA. Then second is China, Russia, Germany and India. In the recent years, Germany have increased its expenditure on military. Okay, and they account for the 58% of global spending. And India is at the fifth biggest spenders in the world, with total expenditure of 92 billion US dollars. And India's spending saw a surge of 8.9% compared to the previous year. So if there is a question that there is surge, yes, there is a surge in expenditure related to military in India as well. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Falkland Island. And whenever you are reading such type of news, please look at the map. This is the map of South America, and this Falkland Island are somewhere here. And what is the context? The context is that the UK have rejected the change to the sovereignty over the Falkland Island, as United States policy regarding the island remain under review. So USA papers have discussing about the Falkland sovereignty, and they have also discussed about the Spain membership in the NATO, as Spain have directly objected against the US war on the Iran. So here we will be learning about the Falkland Island. So it is an internally self-governing overseas territory of United Kingdom in South Atlantic Ocean. So this is South Atlantic Ocean. This is Africa. It comprises of two islands, that is East and West Falkland, and several hundred small ones. Lies about 480 kilometer northeast of the southern tip, that is northeast, that is 480 kilometer from the southern tip of the South America, and it is similar distance east of Strait of Magellan. So all the strait which are there in the news are important for now. Here there is Strait of Magellan, and these islands are also claimed by Argentina, and there was conflict between Argentina and UK regarding these islands in the year 1982. Now let us discuss the last quick update. The last quick update for today is Benai Manasseh community, and the context is that the over 250 members of Benai Manasseh community from Manipur and Mizoram were relocated to Tel Aviv by the Israel government. In this news, we will be covering about this community. So they are Jewish identified community from Manipur and Mizoram, whereas the Israel does not directly identify them Jewish. That's why there is requirement of authorization from the government. They belong to Mizo Kuki tribe, who claim to the descendant of one of the 10 lost tribes of the Israel, that is tribes of Manasseh. The tribes were exiled in the year 722 BC by Assyrian conquerors when they attacked on this area, that is the area of Israel. And Benai Manasseh, which is Hebrew for the children of Manasseh, the first son of Joseph. So with this, we have completed today's session, and if you want to solve the smart quizzes and you want to read further the current affairs initiative of Vision IAS, you can visit digital current affairs website of Vision IAS. Thank you, and all the best for your preparation, and especially all the best for your prelims examination. Thank you.